Okay, so Byler. Yeah, let's talk about it. So Byler is a ship name attributed to two characters from Stranger Things, Mike Wheeler and Will Byers, and there's a whole community out there that believe that they should be together. I say believe and not will be together. Because, oh bruh, I've never come across a community so self-doubting, especially a shipping one. I have been a part of and witnessed a few shipping communities in my lifetime, okay? Even the most far-reaching ones have like 100% level of amount of confidence. Like, these people should be working on farms because the amount of milking they can do is insane. It's insane. I would look at these things and read their posts and think, oh my God, you really believe. Like, it is really rough out there to be a Byler fan in the Stranger Things subreddit. That is what I have learned in my research. You don't understand. These people got bullied into their own subreddit. But you know what? I'm here to make this video to say that I believe it'll happen. And if you can't believe it, I will believe it for all of us. For the next few weeks until Stranger Things 5 comes out. And if it doesn't happen, then I will take the I told you so's. But I am gonna believe for all of us. I feel like Byler is a theory that a lot of people don't see. Not because it's not there and it doesn't exist and it's like a crazy far reach, but I think it's one of those theories where you have to be willing to see it in order to see it. Basically, in order to see this theory, you have to consider the possibility that Mike is gay. And I never considered the possibility that I never considered it. It never even crossed my mind. I just assumed straight, that's a straight boy. How dumb was I though, looking back? This is a true lesson for me. But anyways, let's just get into why I think Byler will happen, my proof for Byler, how I got to this point where I believe in Byler, and how I think that it could actually work in season 5, because there are some people who think that it won't work, and I think they can make it work. I'm gonna dive straight into season 3, because that's actually where I started believing in Byler. This is how you know that I wasn't trying to force Byler. Season 1, season 2, and even pretty much all the way through season 3, I was watching Stranger Things with Byler in the back of my head and being like, yeah, I mean, I could see that they're close and they care about each other, but to say that they're gonna become a couple, it just feels like it's just not gonna happen. Like, I just don't really see strong enough evidence of that. Like, I don't know how to break it to the Byler community. Damn, I've already been through so much, you know what I mean? Until, like, literally the final few minutes of season 3, when my whole world got rocked. Rocked by one look. On a Byler belief scale, I went from a good 5% to like 99% sure. All it takes is a look. So the scene that changed it all for me was at the end of season 3 when the Byers are packing to get ready to move to California. Will walks in holding his Dungeons and Dragons board game. I think it's a board game. I've never seen it in real life. His Dungeons and Dragons set. He drops it into the donation box and Mike is like, yo dude, that's, what are you doing? That's the donation box. And Will is just like, yeah, I know, well, use yours if I ever come back. And Mike's like, but what if you want to play with another party or something?
Not possible.
And boom! That's the look. You show me a flirtier smile than that. That is the this is why I knew. Because like when I saw that scene and I saw that look, I literally got like butterflies. Every time I see that look, I get nervous. I'm like, Michael, stop it! Don't look at me like that! When I think about it, Finn Wolfhard could have picked any choice. He could have chosen any look to give. He could have gone, yeah, or no, but he went so flirty. Mike, you're so gay. Mike likes Will. This was the important realization that I had to make because I knew Will liked Mike, but I had to like believe that Mike could potentially like Will back. And this final part of season 3 was when I realized, holy crap, Mike is in love with this boy. So at the end of season 3, we get that flirty look. But then further into the end of season 3, we get this moment, which I found very, very interesting, okay? So as the U-Haul is driving away, Eleven's in it, Will's in it, the Byler family's in it, but they don't matter in this context. So Mike is there together with the whole group, watching that U-Haul go away, looking in the same direction, doing the same look, being all somber like everybody else. It isn't until everybody starts peeling off and Mike sort of like stays back and then he's finally alone and nobody's really there to look at him or observe what he's doing. It isn't until then that he looks back on his own and looks back at what? At what? at a house. I'm sorry, what? Whose house? William's house. That's not 11's house. That's not his girlfriend's house. That's William's house. He's not looking at the house because he's thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna miss the Byers so much. Like Joyce and Jonathan, I'm gonna miss them. The only reason is I'm gonna miss the shit out of Will. Like Will. And I think that is Stranger Things trying to make it super obvious to us who he cares about the most in that scene. Because they could very well have Mike just continue staring forwards, because that's where 11 is as well, so they could make it quite ambiguous in that regard. But no, they specifically make Mike look back. And then after that, we cut to Mike just like falling into his mother's arms. Actually, I'm just remembering, the last time we see him do that is when he finds out that Will died. Or he thinks that Will died. Where did I even leave off? Oh yeah, okay, so let's move on to season 4. I've been waiting to talk about season 4. Season 4 is super interesting, okay? I feel like a lot of people were starting to really dislike Mike because of the way he was treating both Elle and Will. Particularly at the beginning of season 4. I feel like as the season progresses, it's actually not so bad. He chills out, but he comes in hot. I think it's very jarring because it is so... his behavior is so weird and nothing really explains it. At least nothing explicitly explains it. So at the beginning of season 4, Mike reunites with Elle and Will at the airport. And of course, as soon as he sees 11, he goes in for a hug and a kiss because that's his girlfriend. On paper, at least. And then Will, of course, goes in for a hug because that's his best friend that he hasn't seen in a long time. And Mike full-on rejects him. That was so awkward. Every time I watch it, I feel so bad for Will. I think it's because I know what it's like to be Will. I've been on both ends of a hug like that. It is no joke. It's top tier embarrassing. Because it means that one of you is misjudging how close of a relationship you have. And that is so embarrassing. At that point, I'd rather you just spit in my face and say, get away from me. I mean, the thing is, Will goes in for the hug as if nothing's wrong. So nothing obviously bad happened between them. So the question is, the big question mark on this season when it comes to Mike is why? Why did you reject that hug? Why did you act that way at the airport? It's a topic of a lot of threads on the subreddit. There are a lot of different theories circling out there on the web. It actually is a very important question to answer because how you answer in your own head as a fan really has a direct domino effect on how you interpret the rest of Mike's storyline in this season, which is why it's so scandalous. Some people say it's because he knows Will is gay and Mike is secretly homophobic. I don't buy that straight up. I just don't think Mike is homophobic. I may be wrong, but that's what my instincts say, so I'm just gonna run with that. Some people say it's because he knows Will likes him and Mike, because he's straight, feels a bit uncomfortable by it and it's just kind of like, be gone, gay man, I am Michael, straight as an arrow. Be gone from me, don't touch me, not this straight boy. I don't buy that one. I don't buy into that one because, I mean, first of all, how would he even know? Because by the end of season 3, I don't get the impression that he knows. They haven't really spoken in between season 3 and season 4, so what would have happened between that time for him to come to this realization that Will likes him and to be so sure of it to justify treating Will this way? I just don't think that tracks. I also think that Mike cares too much about Will, that if he did find out Will had feelings for him that way, I just don't think Mike would be capable of treating Will that harshly. So again, the question remains, why, Michael? Why so mean? Okay, so my theory really hinges on the letter that 11 sends to Mike at the beginning of season 4. I'm gonna tell you what she says, particularly in relation to William. Will is painting a lot, but he won't show me what he's working on. Maybe it's for a girl. I think there's someone he likes, but he's been acting weird. So just imagine you're Mike, right? And the last time you saw your friend, Will, basically, he promised to you that he would, I don't know, quote unquote, leave the door 3 inches open, like metaphorically speaking, you know what I mean? And then you read this letter from Elle saying that apparently Will has moved on to some other girl. You would feel some type of way about that, I'm sure. That would really fuck with you. Not only have I been falling for someone who apparently isn't that into me the way that I'm into them, but apparently I've been falling for a straight boy. So after this discovery, Mike must be feeling hurt, betrayed, stabbed in the back a little. And then when he reunites with Will and Will goes in for a hug, Mike is just thinking, oh, so you're gonna pretend like everything's okay? You know when you're mad at someone and then they go in for a hug because they don't know that you're mad at them and they did something wrong? That's what the interaction is like. It's like, well, is he just gonna hug me? You really don't know what you did. You're gonna pretend like everything's okay. You're telling me you don't remember breaking my heart and throwing it in the trash? Wow. Wow. Really? Wow. So it makes more sense that he's mean to Will because, number one, he deserves it, and number two, that Will's the one in the wrong and Mike's the one who's been betrayed. Even in the rink, he says, like, why am I the bad guy? Weren't you the one who broke my trust? Why do you care if I look at you? Why do you care if you're the third wheel? All right, go spend time with your girlfriend. And then throughout season 4, Mike constantly says to Will, like, we're friends. We're just friends, yeah? And a lot of people say that it's because he's trying to drill that into Will's head. If you go by my theory, it's more like Mike is trying to drill it into his own head. He's trying to convince himself of this. First time he says it in the rink, and he says, we're just friends. When he says it then, it is more of like a snappy, resentful way. Like, you know, you've made it pretty clear that we're just friends. We're just friends. And then later on, he has a bit of a reflective moment and realizes that if he continues to treat Will the way that he's been treating him, he's going to eventually completely lose him. And so when he goes to Will's bedroom to have that sort of conversation and make amends, he says something along the lines of like,
I think we should work together. I think it'll be easier if we're a team. Friends. Best friends.
You could think that he's saying this in order to drill it into Will's head, but I think that he's saying it to convince himself to be okay with it, to accept the reality that they're just friends and that's all they're ever gonna be. Even though it sucks and it hurts like hell, it's better than completely losing Will, which is just not an option for Mike. So the next very important Byler scene to me is the van scene when Will finally gives that painting to Mike. The whole season we're all just like, is he gonna give it? Is he not? Is he gonna give it? Is he not? Oh, he's giving it. Oh yeah! Good job, William, you did it. and then it gets very sad. There are people who say that after this scene, Mike is still super oblivious to Will's feelings. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that shit for a second. In order for that to be true, for it to be true that Mike has not a single clue, he would literally have to be the dumbest boy on earth. And I just don't think he's even close to that. So, no. He knows. He knows at least something. Actually, let's go over what Mike does know. Again, the letter from 11 is very important here. He knows that Will has been working on some paintings, potentially for some girl that he likes. But what else does Elle say in that letter? She says that she has never seen these paintings. Why would Elle ask Will to paint something, a specific something, and then Will doesn't allow her to see it? That doesn't make any sense. I am convinced that when Mike opens that painting, his first thought is, I'm the girl? And then as soon as Will goes like, oh yeah, Elle asked me to paint that for you, Mike knows that that's a straight up lie. We actually see Mike's reaction to that in the mirror. Now, if I had heard that my boyfriend commissioned a painting for me, my reaction would be nothing but glee. I would be so happy and also kind of like, what? Like, you did? But Mike's face is more like, why are you lying? Like, I know you're lying, but I'm gonna let you cook because it seems like you need to do it this way, and I'm curious. All right, even if Mike doesn't realize here that Will is lying to him, there's no way realistically that this lie keeps, right? Because either Will goes to Elle and says, listen, I told Mike that you asked me to make this painting for him, but like, just don't ask me any questions, okay? Just please run with it. That would instantly make her suspicious. Or Mike never mentions it to Elle, and that's just rude. And then he listens to Will's whole speech about how much 11 needs Will and how he's the heart. But like, he knows. I know he knows. I know he knows. Look, I know Michael can be oblivious at times. Sometimes I just want to hit that boy with this and say, pull yourself together. But he's not stupid. There is no way that Mike is listening to what Will is saying and seeing Will bawl his eyes out and not thinking that something is up. You talk about Mike. Mike, the guy who is probably the most attuned and sensitive to Will's feelings. That kid, the kid who when Will even does like a little, he's the first to be like,
You okay?
Are you okay? Is he okay? Will, what's wrong?
that kid has no clue. It's not possible. I'm just saying that if Jonathan knows, I think not only does he know and realize that Will likes him, but I do think that this is where Mike actually falls in love with Will. Just the way that he looks at him during the speech. That's a boy falling in love. It's actually such a sweet moment. It would be really nice if in season 5 we could look back at the scene and realize that this is the scene where Mike fell in love with Will. Because you see Will turn around and start crying because he's devastated by the fact that he knows that this is an unrequited love. But imagine if in season 5 we actually learned that this is the moment Mike fell in love with Will. That would be so sweet. Just thinking about it makes me want to tear up. I would actually cry. So you can't really talk about Byler without talking about Mileven. Like I said before, I've never really been that invested in the romantic relationships in Stranger Things, but particularly I've never been that into Mike and Eleven because they never gave me enough to root for. They're not particularly passionate, they're not particularly intimate, they're not particularly romantic. So it's like, they feel more platonic to me. And I always thought it was because they just had bad chemistry. But I am grateful to potentially learn that maybe it's all on purpose. That would bode very well for the actor. It's not bad chemistry. It was supposed to be like that all along. I'm gonna read you a comment that pretty much sums up what a lot of Mileven shippers argue when trying to convince people why they think Mileven is undeniably endgame. No, they aren't going to break up the couple they've built for 4 seasons, including a love confession that saved Elle's life at the end of season 4. Outside of online fandom spaces, the narrative isn't there. The general audience would be incredibly confused. And I say this as someone who ships a ton of non-canon ships. Then you should know better, hot Metroid. When I read these comments, I'm always like, built up to what, though? Season 1, I get. They had really great chemistry, they were really sweet to each other, and then season 2, they're separated the entire time. Then we go to season 3, they're together for like 2 seconds, and those entire 2 seconds, they're just making out the entire time. So season 3, they break up, and it's kind of uncomfortable between them the entire time. They do make amends, and then Mike does confess his love for Eleven, but not even to Eleven, he does it to everybody else. And then at the end of season 3, they get back together and Eleven tells Mike that she loves him and his face looks like she just pissed on his shoe. You would think, right, if they really wanted us to root for this relationship and if they were the ultimate endgame pairing, you would think that they would have Mike at least smile? Because, you know, it's really nice to hear that the person you really, really love actually loves you back too. Maybe kiss her? I don't know. What is that response? To this day, it's such a weird response. Here's the thing. There's a lot of instances where if Byler is not canon, then Mike is just the strangest boy. He was happier when Will told him that he would never play D&D with another party. He was happier hearing that than hearing that his girlfriend loves him. Again, very, very strange. And then season 4, they have 2 seconds of happiness, but that happiness is all based on a lie because Eleven is lying to him the entire time. And then they get into this big argument because apparently Mike is incapable of even writing I love you to Elle. And then they get separated once again. And then they're reunited at the very end. They actually do have an opportunity where Mike could have told Elle he loves her, but again, he hesitates and doesn't do it. But when does he do it? Oh yeah, when Elle is in the upside down, can't see or respond to him straight away. Yeah. I mean, isn't that how every girl wants to be told I love you? I just don't get it. I just don't think it's in Mike's nature to be in a romantic relationship with Elle. And he's clearly so much more in his nature, in his element when he's with Will. In season 3, when Eleven breaks up with Mike, he's like, oh, I don't know how to act and I don't know how to make amends with her. When him and Will get into an argument, he is instantly at his doorstep in the pouring rain. Like, Mike, which one is your girlfriend? I do think that Mike does love Elle, though. Like, genuinely loves Elle. But just not in that way. I do think that's why he has such a hard time saying it. One of their biggest rules is friends don't lie. He knows that if he told Elle that he loves her, it would be a big fucking lie. Even if he loves her platonically, he knows that if he says that he loves her, she would interpret it in a romantic way, and he feels like that would be deceptive. And that actually is a good point, the whole I love you thing. This is also an indication to me that Eleven is also on her way out of this relationship too. She makes a big deal out of Mike saying the words I love you to her. In my experience, when you need someone to say the words to you, it's often because you know deep down inside that it's not true. And you're hoping that if you hear them say the words, somehow they'll say it in a way that changes how you feel on the inside. But like most of the time, it doesn't do anything. You still feel the same way. I feel like that's what Eleven is going through here because she's never demanded this of anybody else. People don't say that they love each other. They show that they love each other on Stranger Things. So her needing to hear Mike say the words I love you or even read it on paper indicates to me that Eleven is already having doubts about the relationship. Now this next point, I admit, could be a bit of a reach, but I'm still gonna go for it. So a big moment for Mileven is at the end of season 4 when Mike confesses his love to Eleven. Through the power of love, Eleven finds the strength to fight Vecna. There are people who argue that Mike's confession didn't do shit, that after he says I love you, the vines still tighten on Eleven, and it isn't until she looks at Max and is reminded to fight maybe for Max that she actually breaks out and does her thing, you know? So you're thinking, but like, this is something Eleven's been wanting to hear from Mike the entire time. Why wouldn't this have any impact on her? And I think it's because between the time that Eleven gets separated from Mike and then they reunite again, Eleven has been through a lot a lot of personal growth. And one thing that she starts to let go of is that need for external validation from anybody. When she leaves Brenner to die in the sand and doesn't tell him what he wants to hear, that was super harsh, but that really was the ultimate, like, I don't give a shit what everybody wants from me. I'm gonna do my own thing. And this is a really important moment for Elle, because if you think about it, her need for external validation stems from this guy. He's manipulated and abused these kids to desire one thing, which is to make Papa happy, to be Papa's favorite. I feel like it's no coincidence that Brenner is the one person in her life who always says how much he loves you, but sure as hell don't show it. Like, I'm sorry, but asking my psycho brother and sisters to fight against each other, it just doesn't feel like love. And maybe you do. Maybe this is truly your sick, twisted version of love. But that's why that scene at the desert is super important when Elle just leaves him. Because that is her full on rejecting that form of love. Like, that is not for me. Sorry, sir. Nice try. So when she gets to the point where Mike is telling her that he loves her, I do think that she still is waiting to hear it. And I think in that moment when she hears Mike go, "I love you," she realizes, oh my God, don't. No, you don't. Mike, no, you don't. Because the vines are still tightening around my neck and Vecna still has 2 feet on the ground. So, no, you don't, Mike. I know, and my body knows, the vines know. The vines know, Mike. The vines know. Mike had the opportunity to tell Eleven that he loved her, but he didn't do it. He was only able to do it under life or death circumstances. My friends are about to die and the supervillain's about to take over the world, and my friend turns to me and goes, "The only way you can save them is if you say I love you to Elle, because you're the heart. You're the heart." Yeah. And I love you under those circumstances does feel like it was administered under a little bit of duress. Especially when that person is unable to do it to your face multiple times, even though you asked them to, and couldn't even write it on paper. He couldn't pen that to paper. Oh my God. I haven't even talked about the craziest part of season 4 between Mike and Eleven. You want to tell me Mike cares that much about Eleven? Okay. Then explain to me the scene where Mike is reading Elle's letter. This is potentially the last letter he could ever receive from the woman he loves. He doesn't know if she's okay, if he'll ever see her again. And then Will comes in and goes, "Why are you still reading that?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." Like tissue paper. But you know, yeah, that is the love of his life. Again, if Mike is not in love with Will and Eleven and him are truly endgame, then he's the weirdest little boy I've ever come across in my life. Now, let's move on to the final part of the video where I discuss how this could all potentially work in season 5. I'm gonna be honest with you. Stranger Things does have a lot of heavy lifting to do in season 5. It's really hard for a lot of people to see how they can make Byler work with only 1 season left. If we were at this point and we had even 2 more seasons to go, I think you'd have luck convincing a lot more people. I can see why it's hard for people to envision the path ahead. There are audience members out there who, just like me, before I even did the rewatch, who didn't even consider the possibility that Mike could even be gay. So you're gonna try to take these people and in 1 season get them to believe, oh, Mike is gay and now with Will. That is a tall order, but dare I say, not impossible. Here's the thing though, the reason why it's not impossible is because they have laid down a lot of groundwork for Byler from season 1 to season 4. Like I said, I didn't see it before, but once I rewatched it with my mind open and the possibilities open, I saw so much. Like, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So that's what they can use to their advantage in season 5. The fact that, oh, all you have to do is suggest the possibility and show the groundwork, and you can convince people just as easily as I was convinced. So to me, Eleven plays an instrumental role in this entire thing working out, because if she's not okay with it, even I wouldn't be okay with it. But I could totally see Eleven being okay with this. I really could, because I feel like throughout the seasons, her journey has been one of like increasing independence. And the ending of season 4 just sort of cemented that. Her entire life, she's been used and abused, taken advantage of, gaslit, been told what to do, who she should be, what's the best thing for her. And then she's realized that she needs to really trust herself a lot more because she's not a monster. She is a badass. And I think her breaking up with Mike will be a huge character development moment for her, because she has been sort of dependent on Mike since season 1. If you remember, he found Elle at her most vulnerable stage. He literally picked her up from the streets like a stray dog and fed and clothed her. It would make sense for her to develop this sort of emotional bond and dependence on Mike. So by breaking up with him, it's not that she doesn't care about him, but it's her acknowledging like, yeah, I love you, but I don't need you. Her whole life she's tried to live up to the expectations of the people around her, you know, tried to be the perfect lab rat to Brenner, or the perfect daughter to Hopper, or the perfect girlfriend, or, you know, more specifically with Mike, the perfect superhero. There's a reason why she didn't feel like she could tell the truth to Mike about her situation in season 4 is because she knows that Mike sees her as like this invincible superhero and she doesn't want to disappoint him. Even when she tells him, he's like, how could you be going through that? How could you let people do that to you? You're a superhero. You have superpowers. You can do anything. You can fly. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure Superman still has his bad days. Like, give me a break. I'm getting bullied. So even Mike refuses to see his hero as human. He refuses to see because it's more important for him to believe in the greatness of Elle. And he feels comforted and protected by that. But that's not fair to put on Elle. That's why I love 11 and Max. Because Max is one of the only people who never really puts any expectations on Elle. In fact, she's the one who encourages her to seek her own independence. When 11 is with Max, she's free to be whoever she wants to be. She's free to just be a girl. A girl with regular girl problems. Not a superhero, not a fugitive, not a test subject, but just a regular ass chick. So yeah, I think 11 will break up with Mike. Whether or not she knows that Will or Mike is gay, or that Will likes Mike, or that Mike likes Will, at that moment, I have no idea. But I do think her breaking up with Mike will open up the path for Byler. And honestly, even if Byler is not going to be a thing, I still want her to break up with him. I'm an 11 stan, and I love 11 when she does her own damn thing. Okay, so after 11 breaks up with Mike, then what? So here's the thing. In season 4, Will has that whole speech about how Mike is his heart, and that without it, he would fall apart. I mean, he says 11, but for those of us with a brain, we know it's about Mike and him. That has to play into season 5 at some point, right? No? One of the main themes in Stranger Things is that love is more powerful than hate. That love conquers all. That, love always wins. That's how 11 defeated Vecna. That's how Max escaped the Upside Down. That is just the power of love, people. I think that there's gonna be a moment where Will needs to be saved, and I think Mike needs to make another speech. Mike is gonna have to make the speech of his life to pull Will back. Nothing like that bullshit speech he gave to 11, like a real solid I love you speech. The other likely candidate is Jonathan, but Will never called Jonathan his heart, so I still think that Mike is the top contender here. A lot of people think that the most likely scenario for Byler is that Will confess his feelings to Mike, and then Mike will accept him, but also at the same time tell him that he doesn't feel the same way. And then eventually they'll just be content with being friends. I guess that is also a likely scenario. It's more than likely, but the love speech, the love conquers all speech, how is that gonna go down? I think I've heard that Will is like the main character of season 5, so he's gonna be going through some shit. He's gonna need to be brought back from some situation. And when Mike makes his speech, the speech of his life to bring Will back from the grips of Vecna, I just don't think the speech that saves Will from that scenario goes, Will, remember, I love you, but just as a friend, like we're best friends, but come back. I touched on how, since season 4, Mike and 11 have been growing apart, and they spend a lot of time apart from each other the entire series, but Mike and Will spend a lot of time together. Season 1, of course, they were separated, but Mike's entire storyline was wrapped around finding Will. Season 2, again, he's spending the entire time literally by his bedside. Season 3, even though they fight, they're still spending time together. And as soon as Will comes to him with a problem, he's like, we need to get this Vecna shit sorted out. And then season 4, they're on a whole romantic road trip together. You cannot tell me this is not the relationship that they've been building up. So, this next point, I admit, is probably going to be one of the dumbest points that I make, but I still think it's so valid, okay? Just hear me out. If there is one thing that I've learned in my rewatch for Stranger Things, it's that this show loves a good montage. They had one with Billy, they had one with Max, they had one with Elle. They can't get enough. And something that I noticed about Will and Mike scenes is that they're shot in a particularly intimate, romantic, dramatic way. And I can't help but think that they have been setting up the pieces to provide us with the mother of all montages. This shot between them in season 4, with the light rays and the warm lighting and that, how is that necessary for a scene between people who are just friends? Sometimes you watch a scene and you just know instantly that they filmed it that way because they're gonna use it later on. This, I knew. It's shot too well. You guys paid extra for those light rays. You're not paying for those light rays only to use it once. And by the way, that montage that they make is gonna be really important. At that point, you might be watching season 5 and seeing them get together and falling in love and think, this is out of nowhere, isn't it? But if the show comes in with a full-on romantic montage saying, actually, it's been there, it's been there, it's been there, oh, and it's been there too, you just weren't looking. And then people will watch and go, wow, well played. But yeah, their montage potential is huge. Compare that to the montage potential of Mike and 11. You can't even compare. Mike and 11 don't even have the screen time to compare. It's a stupid point, I know, but you know I'm right. And this brings me to my final reason why I think this is going to happen. This Byler thing, to me, is just a better story. It's not as if there's no setup for it. There's tons of setup for this. All you have to do as a Duffer brother is write it into the script. If I was them, if I was one of the brothers, if I was Duffer Brother 1, Duffer Brother 2, I would want to make this happen. Just to gloat and be like, I'm a genius, guys. Like, look at all the subtext and setup that I did over 10 years and 4 seasons. I am the storytelling genius that's been leaving these crumbs throughout the show for you to find, because I'm that good. It's also just like a way more interesting story. Is it not? I think it is. I don't care if people are mad at me that there are 2 gay boys in the show. As a storyteller, as a creative, to be able to say that I did that, I would rather take credit for a really fucking good story. You know what I've also read that really annoys me? It would be really sudden if Mike just came out as gay. Like, he doesn't seem gay. Why would it take him so long to come out as gay now? Like, that would feel really unnatural and forced. And I can't help but wonder, what do you expect him to act like? Like, do you expect him to come out with a feather boa in season 1? This show has made it very clear how unwelcoming this society is to people who are different. So it is no surprise that Mike would be terrified to come out. Even Robin touches on it. Not a lot of people know that Robin is gay. Think about Eddie Munson. He was one of the most authentic characters in Stranger Things, and his reputation was destroyed because of it. He liked playing board games, and now he worships the devil? Hawkins isn't exactly the kind of town that encourages one to live their truth. They're also like 14, 15 by season 4. They're still very young. At 14, it's one thing to realize that you're in love with your friend. It's another thing to realize that you're in love with your friend who's a guy, and you're a guy. And then it's a whole other thing to come to terms with that, accept that, and then come out. It's a lot to ask of a 15-year-old in the 80s in a town like Hawkins. But yeah, that's all I have to say on Byler. Since season 5 is coming out very, very soon, this is not only the first video I'm making on Byler, but probably the last. Unless it happens and all my predictions come true. If Byler happens in season 5, I will not only be happy for me, I will be ecstatic for the Byler shippers out there, because they will feel so vindicated in that moment. For 10 years, they have been told, no, you're wrong, you're crazy. So if Byler does happen, there will be parades. If not, there should be parades. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, if Byler doesn't happen, will I cry? No. Will I be sad for that long? No. Will I be angry? No. I will just be extremely disappointed.